So I said in the wake of certainly those three by-elections that Uxbridge was a bit of a disappointment. It was ultimately very, very close. They narrowly hung on to that seat, the Tories did, by just 400 votes. But we saw if the Lib Dems had not run a candidate, chances are they would have gone to Labour. Labour would have won. If the Greens had not run a candidate there, they would have gone to Labour. They could have won. Progressive voting, electoral alliances, voting for a party you may not like 100%, but you know is progressive enough that will bring the change that you want to see. And this is the fight and the idea we have to get through to people, that we have to really go for this progressive alliance, because already the Tories are talking up a strategy how they could keep hold of some of those outer London seats at the next general election. Now, it's not going to win them the next general election, but it might keep them over that 100 seat threshold. And if they get over 100 seats, then they become a sort of viable opposition still. And that we do not want. I have said, if you are a progressive, there is such an opportunity. There is such an opportunity, not only at this next general election, but in the future as well. Because the Tories, given the state that they are in, are going to be in a complete disarray, if not for the next 10 years or more, potentially. Well, we can hope. But certainly for the next decade, they are going to be in complete disarray. And this offers us, progressives, a monumental opportunity to really bring about a lot of change. It really does. And I am really, really hopeful. And this is the message I really want to spread, that we have to look forward beyond not just this upcoming general election, but beyond that, and to force the Tories out completely. We can do it. It has been shown up in the north that it worked. The Lib Dems managed to do it. There are now groups organising together in these strong Tory strongholds down in Devon. George Minbot wrote a fantastic piece today, or yesterday's piece in his opinion piece. You can probably see it, about his town that is doing this progressive, a progressive alliance of the Liberal Democrats and the Labour, people getting together to select a progressive candidate, which they both parties can vote for and get behind. So there is such an opportunity, and I think people are really talking about it. And I hope, to be honest, if Rishi Sunak suddenly calls a snap general election, then maybe we don't have enough time. But there is stuff happening right now which makes me very, very, very hopeful. And especially if you go read the George Minbot opinion piece in the Guardian. It's in sort of yesterday's Guardian on the 26th. If it was in there, but if you look online, you'll be able to find it, or you can look him up on the Guardian. You can be able to see his article on there. It is fantastic, and that is being replicated something up and down the country, especially in these Tory strong seats. But today we are going to go over the Compass piece, because they are, as I think we've talked about Compass before. I think we've mentioned them. I'm pretty sure we have. They're a very sort of progressive group. They're saying, look, if we want to win in this system, this winner takes all, first past the post system, we have to vote tactically, and then eventually we can change the system, and we have to get people in, MPs who have said, look, we want to go for PR. That is the direction that we are going. There is more appetite, more than ever, to really change the Westminster system. And we have to keep that momentum up. We have to keep pushing for that, because Everyone knows it's coming sooner or later. Even the Tories, if you may remember, we did that piece about the person in Conservative Home who was talking about, yeah, progressive voting is coming. Even we Tories eventually need to prepare for it. So even they know it is coming sooner or later. So we have a lot of opportunities. We really do for progressive ideas and progressive policies in the upcoming, not only the next parliament, but potentially even one after that. But to do that, we have to vote tactically and we have to keep the Tories out. Above all, because if they do manage to sort of become somewhat of a viable opposition, then they will use every opportunity to muck up or mess up any progressive thing we try and do. So that is the message we really have to spread, and it is an alliance, and it is a recognition of, if you're a Labour voter, you have to look where you are, look up, can Labour win in your area? If they can't, you're probably going to have to vote Lib Dem, and even vice versa. If you're Lib Dem and you are in an area where Labour can win, well, then you'll have to vote Labour. Like I say, I live in a very strong Labour area, so I will be voting Labour regardless, just to make sure. But that is the situation we are in, and it offers big, big, big progressive wins, especially if you look at what is being doing with these campaign groups getting together and really galvanizing progressive votes. But I want to go over this because, as we said, there's the new Tory strategy to try and hold on to these outer London seats. There is, of course, potentially other seats where we could see what happened in Uxbridge, where it could have been a very easy Labour win or a Lib Dem win, but they lose just by, like, as we saw in Uxbridge, by a couple of hundred votes. That if the progressive voting message had got through, we could have won. So I want to go over this because I think this is really important. It gets to really the heart of the matter. It is they refer to it as the progressive tragedy, and I really do think that is a message that needs to be hit home. That we could have gone 3 for 3 on those by-elections and really delivered the Tories an absolute spanking. But unfortunately, that was not the case. But anyway, please do remember, like I say, like, share, subscribe button, extra, all that down below. Patreon page, one notification link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee, YouTube thank you button, and of course the Pony Club down below as well. Like I say, go check those out. So let's crack on into this. So this obviously comes from Compass and their website. So Compass urges progressives to unite in a one-off pact at the next general election after the Tories hold Uxbridge. Uxbridge should not be a Tory seat. The fact that it is down to a number of factors, and elections always are, but the fact that the Lib Dem vote was more than the Tory victory over Labour cannot be avoided. Compass calls those results a progressive tragedies. Seats where the progressive vote is larger than the regressive vote, but the Tory party wins because progressives are divided. At the last election, 62 of those tragedies, more than enough to take Johnson's thumping majority away. And that's what I worry about, because that was 2019, and there were 62 seats that could have cut away at Johnson's majority. And that's what I worry about at the next general election. That maybe the Tories manage to just hang on to enough seats because of these, as they so very clearly put it here, a progressive tragedy. That's what I worry about. That's what I really worry about. But back to it. So if such tragedies are to be avoided at the next election, then progressive party leaders, and in particular Keir Starmer and Ed Daley, need to get their act together. Labour should not, as some now fear, use this loss as an excuse to cut the Green crap, in fear of losing votes to the Conservatives on issues such as ULEZ. As we have seen, the combined progressive vote in Uxbridge far outweighed the Conservative vote. Going forward, if Labour is determined to work together more closely with other progressives, it could avoid capitulating further on progressive issues. And this is what I have said. If you are a progressive from either the Liberal Democrats or Labour or even the Greens, we have to encourage this. This is something we have to encourage, working together on progressive issues and recognizing that you may not be 100% favorite of Labour, but you recognize the fact that your vote, if it went to the Labour Party or the Lib Dems, would be a far bigger victory for potential progressive policies in the future. And that is what we have to look at. We have to look at the long game down the line. We really do have to do that. And as he said, you avoid this capitulation on any further progressive issues. So the Tories have made the by-election into a single issue campaign, but they didn't win. Progressives lost because the vote was split, as we said. Progressives must present a united front in order to achieve a just green transition for all. What purpose did standing a candidate in Uxbridge and Ruislip do for the Liberal Democrats, particularly when Labour candidate spoke in favour of reform to our democratic system? Under our corrupt first-past-the-post voting system, all it achieves is to allow the Tories to win a majority of the vote. Over in Somerton and Felton, Labour's 1,000 votes could have been enough to deny the Liberal Democrats a win if that race had been closer. As things stand at the next election, there will be scores of seats in which progressives divided and the Tories will conquer. That is my worry. That is my biggest worry about a next general election, that progressives and people on the left in particular will go, I'm not voting for Labour because ridiculous issue, whatever, choose one. You don't like Keir Starmer, whatever. As we said, we don't care. But look, if you are in an area where Labour can win, you vote for Labour. If you are in an area where the Liberal Democrats can win, you vote for the Liberal Democrats. As I said at the beginning of this video, I might be, a Labour Party member, but if I was in an area where we saw in Farnham where the Liberal Democrats can win, I would vote for Liberal Democrats. Because it is far, far better for that progressive victory than anything else. And he's right. If it had been a closer race in Somerton, then I'd be saying the same thing that we saw about Uxbridge. So, this isn't me, going against the Lib Dems or Greens. It's the fact that it just really is. It is this progressive tragedy that we see. And I worry that because progressives will divide, the Tories will conquer. I think that is really the message that should be really spent home. And I think you see a lot of people really working together on that. So it is the exact kind of this cross-party working to defeat the Tories that will usher in proportional representation that Neil Lawson, director of Compass, is in the process of being expelled from the Labour Party for advocating. It is entirely self-defeating. Compass calls on the leadership of the Labour and Liberal Democrat parties to get round the table with the leadership of the Greens and decide who is best in place in those seats to defeat the Tories. This should form the basis of a one-time pact for the next general election to win office and to pass legislation in favour of electoral reform so that every subsequent election and every vote is then concluded equally and the Tories cannot govern alone on a majority and a minority of the vote because the progressive vote splits. As the Labour Party goes into a crucial weekend at its National Policy Forum, it is essential that the party emerges from the strongest possible backing for proportional representation, which is the step the party membership, the unions, and the country want to see happen. By backing electoral reform, Labour could turbocharge cross-party working and incentives for the Liberal Democrats and Green voters to support their best-placed Labour candidates in the knowledge that any subsequent election, that every vote will be counted equally. This will be the biggest policy change which the Conservatives most fear. At some stage soon, the mid-Bedfordshire by-election is likely to be called. As things stand, this could well be another progressive tragedy. And maybe we're not there yet with getting proportional representation, but I do think we're not that far away. But if Labour were, if Keir Starmer actually came out and said, you know what, we're going to do proportional representation. First thing in Parliament, we're going to do that. First thing we do, first thing we pass, proportional representation. If everyone gets together and agrees to this pact. But I don't think we're there yet. Because he mentions the Greens there, and I will say this now. Greens have only ever had one MP. They've never been, quote, close to winning any other seat. And I've said before, I think to be part of any big electoral pact, the Greens actually have to show that they've got power to win. Locally, they've proved this time and time again, that in local elections, they can for councils. But they've never, ever proved it anywhere else beyond Caroline Lucas. And you may remember when we covered this, a while ago, I said it before, an election, what should happen? Caroline Lucas should go and stand in another close by seat and then give another Green MP the chance to stand in her seat. That way they would have two potential MPs. I think any electoral pact at the moment, the Greens can be a part of, but I'll tell you now, the chances of them winning, I think, are very slim. But honestly, that is based on past electoral performance. You've got to be honest, I think, and I think if I ever got the opportunity to discuss with the director of Compass, I would say the same thing. Based on past electoral performance, could you guarantee that maybe if Labour and the Lib Dems stood down, the Greens would win in that seat? Of course, it would have to be an open electoral pact, but I don't know. I really don't know. And you saw in Uxbridge that the Greens had a lot of votes that, again, if they had gone and voted for Labour, would have provided that a Labour seat. And I don't know. It's really difficult. It really is difficult to say, but we have to really look at progressive voting and how we really get that in there. Now, I think, as we've said, we have seen an increase in progressive, wanting to get proportional representation in the country. 2012, when we had that referendum on turning it to the AV vote, people said, "Oh, that's it for proportional representation. That's it. It's over." I think now the enthusiasm for changing the voting system is higher than it ever was back in 2012. I think it's on more people's minds than ever before. Even the Tories are worried about this is coming. And I think we just have to have more MPs on board, but it's how you get them on board, how you bring the leadership on board, and how you convince the party that it is in their favor to do that. And it's hard. It is really hard. But Labour for PR have done a fantastic job in promoting PR within the Labour Party and getting it passed. I think as we go into yet another potential round, this is what you do again. You just keep on pushing and pushing and pushing it, and just go, hey, look, your membership is continuously voting for changing the voting system to proportional representation. Come on, guys, get with the rest of the party. And that's it. And I think you will see a lot of fringe events. And I think that's what you need to do. You need to bring this really into the mainstream of the Labour Party, really start that conversation. I think you will see a lot of fringe events around the Labour conference about proportional representation. If I were Compass, I'd be certainly setting up something as a fringe event to promote proportional representation, and I'd be getting someone from Labour, someone from Lib Dems, and someone from the Greens to say, "Hey, look, if we are ever to sort of get this to end these progressive tragedies, then we need to sort of get into tactical voting even more and commit to it. Get the party leaders round the table, get them started talking to this. It's a long road and it's a difficult road. And I admit I am making it sound easy as, oh, you can just get the party leaders around the table. That's hard. That's very incredibly hard to do. I will admit that. But it's it's a long road. But as I've said before, anything worth fighting for in politics is worth fighting for. And it's a long, hard fight sometimes in politics, and you aren't going to win every battle. But the point is, especially in politics, especially something like this, we only need to win once. We only need to win once, and we get the change that we want to see. So even if we have loss after loss after loss, we win one battle to get that proportional representation. That's all we have to do. So even if we lose, don't lose heart, because there is always the next battle. And even if we lose that one, there's the one after that, and there's the one after that. Remember, we only have to win one. So don't lose heart. Anything in politics like this, it takes a long time. It takes bringing it into public consciousness, which is more so than I think than ever before. It takes campaigning. It takes a lot of hard work. So, it's really hard. I'm not going to lie, and just sometimes I make it sound easy on this channel. I will admit, but it is a lot of hard work, and the people that work at Compass and all these different movements that are really promoting tactical voting to sort of promoting PR do fantastic work. So, support them where you can, guys. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.